Pardon? Good evening. I've got close enough time to start, so it might be 30 seconds or so off, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Going to ask Brother Jackson, if he will, in a minute to say a prayer. We need to remember all of those that are sick, those that are recovering, those that have been in distress over the past little while. Brother Jim Little, James is home and doing okay, making progress. And I know that makes Barbara happy because she can see him eyeball to eyeball. We need to keep Brother Terry in our thoughts and prayers. And he goes on the 28th. Well, he's got a few things to do before that, but the 28th is the day of the procedure to try to remove those stones. And I'm sure he's going to be much relieved when those things are gone. Also need to pray for Sister Janice because, like Barbara Little, she can't be there during that time, got to stay away. And I know from personal experience how that is, being in the hospital, laying there looking around the room and nobody familiar face to look at you and talk to you. So let's make sure we keep them in our prayers. Anything else before we? Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. If you missed it, the email, somehow Jason Hall has managed to break all 5 metatarsal in his right foot. His is right, correct? And the email said didn't know how or when, so, or how long it's been that way. So, and I think one of the issues is the diabetics that might be playing into that. So, and you said he would not be able to drive for at least 4 weeks. So that puts Myra in the driver's seat. So let's keep her in our prayers also. Now, is anyone else, or did I get everybody? Brother Jackson, would you lead us in a prayer? Amen. Sister Janice asked me what the lesson was going to be about tonight. And before I tell you, over the past few months, we had been studying the people marriage in the Old Testament. We've been studying an overview of the Old Testament. Last week, I went in, we did a why can you trust the Old Testament. We looked at it that way and used science and a lot of things that were said in the Old Testament, particularly in the book of Daniel and his prophecies about the kingdoms. So since we have talked all that much about the Old Testament, tonight we're going to do a quiz. We're going to find out just what we have learned about the Old Testament. Now, some of the questions that I'm going to ask are relatively easy. We may get to some hard ones. So when I read the question, whoever wants to answer it, just answer it. This is going to be a interaction type thing. What does what does the word Eve mean? Mother of all living. Absolute. Who married Abraham? Sarah. Abraham's servant went looking for a wife for Isaac, and who did he come up with? Who was Isaac's wife? I see your lips moving, but Rebecca. Jacob agreed to work 7 years for the hand of whom? Rachel. Huh? He worked 7 years to get one and got the other, and Leah, and then he finally got the one he wanted. I guess that was a badly worded question, excuse me. What woman in the Bible promised the Lord that if he would bless her with a son, she would dedicate the boy to him? I'm sorry? Hannah. And what was the child's name? Samuel. Okay. Who was David's? Well, I've got it written down as original, but let's look at it as first. Who was David's first wife, the original one that he had been given? Michal. Absolutely. Thank you. What woman remained with her mother-in-law, Naomi, after Naomi's husband and sons died? Ruth. See, I told you this was easy. I've got this on super large print. That's why I have to scroll down so far. So, this woman rumored that Joseph tried to commit adultery with her. I'm sorry? Not Bathsheba. Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife. Are the questions getting harder, or am I just getting hard of hearing? This harlot housed spies sent by Joshua to take the city of Jericho. Rahab. This woman married Moses. Who was Moses' wife? Zipporah? Is that what you're saying? Zipporah? After David looked upon her lustfully, he had an affair with this woman that ultimately led to the death of her original husband. Now we're at Bathsheba. My fingers got ahead of my mind here just a second. And this woman tempted Samson to, well, it just ran all over the place. This woman tempted Samson. Delilah. Excuse me, time out. Let me get this thing going again. Should let you control it, right? What Israelite woman became queen of Persia and used her influence to protect her people? What woman was given to Jacob as a wife deceitfully before he could marry her younger sister? Leah. The prophet Hosea was commanded to marry this woman, though she was a harlot. This might be a little more on the difficult side for you. There you go. Who said that? I might have known, my wife. This Egyptian woman was Sarah's handmaiden and bore him Ishmael through Abraham. This wicked queen wanted to kill the prophet Elijah. Jezebel. This woman gave birth to Moses. I've had one answer correct. Anybody else? Because you don't find her name where you find the story of his birth, but it was Jochebed. Amram was the father and Jochebed, and since that one was a little foggy there, who were they both descended from? Amram and Jochebed went back to Levi. This woman was turned into a pillar of salt because she looked back as Sodom and Gomorrah were being destroyed. Okay, what was her name? Anybody know? I don't, because it's not in the Bible. It just says Lot's wife. Come on, I got to have a little fun, right? This woman was Ruth's sister-in-law. Say it a little louder. Orpha. Okay, we're going to switch off of the women now and do something a little bit different. We're going to look at creation. How many days did it take God to create the universe? And by universe, I'm talking about everything that he created. Not just the first day of, but how many days total did it take for him to create? How many? 6. Who was going to say 7? 6, and on the 7th he rested. What did God create the first day? Light. What did God create on the second day? The firmament. What did he create on the 5th day? Yeah, I skipped over. I'm sorry? All the animals that lived on land. All the animals that lived on land. And on the 6th day, what did he create? I'm sorry? Birds and fish. And okay, I got it backwards. Okay. Now, you're right. You're absolutely right. And what did God create on the 7th day? That's a good way to phrase it. I don't know if he exactly kicked back or not, but his work was done. Which of God's creation did not eat plants after he created them? None. When he created everything was vegetarian. The herbs and everything was for their food. It wasn't until when that there became carnivores, meat eaters, after the flood. Except for... So, how did God water the plants before the flood? Great point. And since you mentioned that region of the world, I don't have this question down, but does anyone know the oldest living tree on record? No, it's not a redwood. No, it is a version of a pine tree. And do you know what its name is, what they call it? Methuselah. Methuselah is the name of it, and they say that it's about 5,000 years old, give or take. And they have it in an area that they will not name because they feel like if people knew where it was, they'd go take parts of it and destroy it. So I'm going to skip these. These are too easy. Except this last one I've got down here on this. Well, there's three more. Why did God create the woman? Help man. What did God create the woman out of? And the next question is why? Why was the rib chosen? I'm sorry? So they were equal. I'm just having all kind of trouble with this thing. I should have gone back to my old way of doing things, paper and pen. Now it's taking 40 forevers to get there. At one point I had it where it was, now it's going. We'll get there in a minute. Because this next set is some you got to think questions. Some of them are you got to think. Who was Noah's father? Somebody go to Genesis 5 and verse 30. Genesis 5 and verse 30. Lamech. All right. Why did the Lord want to destroy man? How would he destroy mankind? What kind of wood did he use to build the ark? What would he coat the ark out of? Pitch, slime. What unit of measure was used to measure the ark? How many inches is a cubit? Is that a standard cubit or a royal cubit? I'm sorry? You'll call it a royal standard? There are two different kind of measurements used. One, the royal cubit, which is about 22 inches, and then what was referred to as the standard cubit, roughly 18 inches. But the 18-inch one is what we all agree on, I think. You agree on that, Brother Cloncher? Okay. How many stories high was the ark? Okay, let me go to something else. We can get in a discussion on this next one. How many animals of each kind did the Lord command Noah to take on the ark? You got it reversed. Yeah, a pair of unclean and 7 cleans, but the way that it's worded in the Bible, there has been discussion. Does that mean that there were 7 in number total, like 3 pair and an extra, or was there 7 pair? And I don't really know the answer to that. I've got my opinions, as everyone else does, but there was a difference in how long or how many of each kind they took on them. How long did it rain? 40 days and nights. Now, you're going to have to think about this one. How long did the water cover the entire earth? 150 days. What was the first animal that Noah let out of the ark? That one's worded badly because birds are fowl and not an animal, but we get the point. What's the first creature that was sent out of the ark? A raven. How many times did the bird that Noah released return to him? Twice. How many times, or the last time the dove returned, what did she have in her beak? Olive leaf. What did the item in the dove's beak signify? Water had gone down, not all parts of the earth was totally covered by water. And what did Noah do to show his thanks to God? Built an altar and did what? Animal sacrifice. So that could be a reason for that extra pairs or extra creature clean. And what was the token of the Lord's promise to never destroy humankind again? A rainbow. I find it fascinating personally with all the junk that's in the atmosphere, everything that the sun has to reflect off of, that the rainbow is always the same color and in the same order. And also, we can't all times see them, but every time there is a rainbow, there is a mirror image of that rainbow. There is always a double rainbow, even though based on atmospherics and all, you can't always see that second one. And it is in reverse order. I just find that fascinating. Why did the king of Egypt put the children of Israel into bondage? Well, that's as good as any. But basically, it was now a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph and the people, and also he was fearful that they would. Well, this gets into a multiple answer question. He put them into bondage because he didn't know them. Secondly, he was afraid of them, and he also told them that they shouldn't multiply because he was afraid that they would get bigger and stronger. So that particular question and answer can get kind of convoluted if we let it. So, which line of Israel's family bore Moses? And I've already given you the answer to it. Levi, family of Levi. And who adopted Moses? And what was her name? Same answer as on Lot's wife, it doesn't say. Pharaoh's daughter. So when Moses killed and ran, what land did he go to? Land of Midian. Then when he was in Midian, he found a wife. Who was his wife? Zipporah. What did God tell Moses to do before approaching the burning bush? Why? Holy ground. What was Moses' concern about his ability to lead the children of Israel? Said he was slow of speech. Got a question for you though, and this is not in my question, just something I just thought about. We don't find it in the Old Testament. We find it in the New Testament where Moses lived in Pharaoh's house, had a great education and all like that. Why would he be slow of speech? Or why would he consider himself slow of speech if he had had some of the best education around? A stutter? I'm sorry? Well, I don't think we're really told that, but if you look at other things that he said and did, it seems to me like he was trying to weasel out of the job and used it as an excuse. But that's just me. Like I say, it does not say anywhere in there. But what did Aaron turn his rod into? Snake, serpent. What day of the plagues was the plague of the serpents? I got my devil's hat on now. They wasn't involved in it. That's correct. Hey, I got to keep y'all on your toes, right? What did the children of Israel do to protect their firstborn sons from being killed in the Lord's last plague of Egypt? Doorpost and lintel blood. As a side note to that, and I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but the Jews place something on the doorpost, right doorpost of their houses, and they will touch them going in and out of the house. And that's sort of a throwback to this being the protection. The doorpost was the protection, but actually it was the blood on the doorpost, and it's just a way of them to remember that. That's correct. You know what kind it was? Lamb, sheep. Yeah. Yeah, put up and then killed a few days later so it wouldn't get injured or anything. This is a true or false question, and I think we need to be careful the way I've got it worded. It's not exactly clear, but true or false, the children of Israel had to suffer from all the same plagues as the Egyptians. Yeah, that's why I say it's kind of, you're shaking your head, not all of them, which is the correct answer. They had to, the first few they did, and then the last ones they didn't, like the flies and all such as that. The Lord showed the children of Israel which way to travel in the wilderness by using what by day and what by night. Sorry? Fire at night and what during the daytime? Clouds. This is not meant to be a trick question, but based on a lot of things that you will read in about the Exodus, we'll need to go into a little explanation. But through which body of water did the children of Israel pass safely? Red Sea. Now, the reason I worded it the way I did is there are a lot of folks, and there's a lot of things in print that takes them over the top of the Red Sea down to Bay of Aqaba and have them crossing over there going into Moab. But if you use this and numbers and go day by day by day, that route is impossible. The only route that holds up to putting everything in a timeline is them going through the Red Sea on about the third or fourth day, somewhere around there at the very beginning of their trip. Questions or comments so far? And Brother Clonch, have I messed up or am I still on track? Okay. But a lot of this stuff that you read, you just have to be real careful of it because they can be so convincing. They even have photographs in one book that I read. They've got photographs, underwater photographs of chariots and wheels and different things, and wanting to use that as evidence that they crossed the sea there, which is down that wrong area. Now, put your thinking hats on, because again, questions are going. The first one's not tough, but it gets a little tougher from there. What is the third book of the Bible? Leviticus. How many chapters does the book of Judges have? "21. Which book of the Bible has 50 verses, 50 chapters? Janice looks at Terry for the answer. So, Janice, you're just verifying. And what's the last book of the Old Testament? I'm sorry? Malachi. How many books are there? And again, this may sound like a trick question. It's not meant to be. How many books are there in the Old Testament? I've heard about 3 or 4 different numbers. Do we need to take a vote on it, or? The actual number of books in the Old Testament are 39. What gets confusing is there are some Bibles out there that have more books than that, and that's due to the Apocrypha that is not a canonized part of the Bible that we use. And if you ever have an opportunity and want to read, and just for enjoyment, read the Apocrypha, because some of the things in there are just, let me just say, it's kind of wild at times. It's a fun read, but don't take any of it seriously. What's the longest book in the Bible? Psalms. What's the shortest? I'm sorry? Let me rephrase that. Old Testament book. Obadiah. What's the second to last book in the Old Testament? Zechariah. Before I go on, why is all this important? Why do we need to be able to know about the order of the Bible and something in general about it? It might be on the test. Haven't you ever been studying with somebody and then bring up a question that that happens to me all the time, because I can know something's there, but I can't remember where to find it. I admire Brother Clunch because he can stand up there and quote book, chapter, verse all day long. I can tell you it's in the Bible, but trying to find it. I even had a Bible that I had gone through so many times. If you asked me a question about something, I could tell you what side of the page it was on, what column it was in, and how close to the top or bottom it was. But I couldn't tell you book and verse and chapter. So we need to be familiar with it enough to be able to find things. Which of the books of the Bible, the Old Testament, only has 5 chapters? Which book of the Old Testament has 5 chapters? Book of Lamentation. The rest of these just gets into how many chapters all these books have in it, so we won't go through that. We're just gonna say, call it a stop on all these questions and answers and just talk. From last week's lesson where we went through about trusting the Bible, how can we absolutely know and trust the Old Testament? We went through a lot of things showing that everything that was written about the Old Testament had either come true in prophecy or was found true today by science. Sunday week ago in my sermon, I challenged you to go through and find the verses in the Bible that we had not covered that looked at a scientific fact, health, or some issue that way. And I also challenged you at that time to find just one that had been contradicted by modern science. I'm not going to ask who has taken time to look through the Bible and try to find those. Just going to open the question this way. Do any of you know from your study in the Bible, can you point to one thing in the Old Testament that is contradicted by modern science or was not fulfilled in the New Testament, the prophecies of the Old Testament filled by the New Testament? Just one. Because if you can find just one, what does that do to the rest of the Bible? Null and void. It invalidates it. So if you can't find anything that is not contradicted, if everything in there has been found to be true, how many writers were there of the Old Testament? At least 24. Some we don't know, but there's a lot of them. And so, and how many years did it take to write just the Old Testament? Not the timeline from Genesis on, but in the writing years, from how many years did it take for it to be written? Somewhere around 1100 years, right? Because Moses started writing it in around 1450, and then we talk about the 400 years between the testaments, so about 400 BC, roughly. So that leaves about 1,000 years that it took all these men to write the Bible. So one person can't write anything without contradicting themselves sometimes. So now you got all these people over all this time. Why do we not find errors in the Bible? The one author, and that one author is God inspired it. I'm going to stick my neck out on the chopping block and say it would be impossible, absolutely impossible, for men from the 1450s BC to about the close of the first century AD to write 66 books and put them together in one form, one book form, and have no errors. Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, sir, Brother George. Yeah, well, there's also another one that I can't think of right offhand, but it's referenced too. And there's a lot of letters and all that they just don't feel like fits the criteria to be canonized. But there is a slew, a mess of what they call fathers' letters of the testimonial periods there, where they can get some extra information and it's all valid. They're beginning to not only find, but they're beginning to publish it in correct form, that a lot of things that the archaeologists are finding today in the form of stelas or documents or clay tablets or different things, that they actually verify the Bible in who was king, the territory, even the order of the kings. So the more that science finds and writes an honest opinion of, the more it validates the Bible. Again, questions, comments, because we've still got about 5 minutes here. If not, I'm going to ask more questions. If I can think of one. If we switch over to the New Testament for a moment, why does the lineage of Joseph go back to Abraham? And then in Luke, the lineage of Mary goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. Correct. Different authors to different people, but the people they were writing to at the time, as Brother Client said in Matthew, it was only necessary to go back to Abraham because who was Matthew writing to? The Jews. They know all this. But Luke was primarily, to both, but they felt it necessary to go all the way back. Just like Sunday when I used the genealogy tree as an example. I'm going to bring that up and say another word or two about that. I disagree with science in some areas. Now, I am a firm believer in scientific fact. Don't get me wrong. For instance, what temperature does, by science, what is the boiling point of water? I'm sorry? 100. At what temperature does water boil? Let me phrase it. Fahrenheit. 212? You know that's an incorrect answer. It is 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level. Here in Montgomery, because we're 300 or 400 feet higher than sea level, it's actually 211 point something. When I lived in Denver, it took me for the longest to figure out why my cooking didn't turn out the same way it did in Alabama. And that's because Denver was a mile high. Things cook faster up there. Water boiled at a lower temperature. Water boiled at 203 or 4 degrees. It's a half a degree for every 500 miles, 500 feet in elevation. So Denver is 11, half that. So it's getting somewhere around 204 or 5 degrees. So, but the reason I said that is, particularly today, a lot of stuff that we see on TV today is talking about what major issue? Sorry? Okay. What came right after the virus and what is now going on that's got people all upset? Is the demonstrations, the riots, and all like that. And what is the one word that you hear thrown around more than any other one word about the situation. Racism. When I took that genealogy tree back last Sunday, I said, every branch and every leaf, God created everything. Mankind, science, uses the term race to define different people, but there is only one race, and that is mankind. Now, all these other descriptions, cultural, country, and all like that, they would fit. But Japanese are not a race. They're a country. In the Bible, you will never find the word race used. It's always this tribe or that tribe. And why did God tell them to avoid certain people? It wasn't because of their looks. What was the reason? Ungodly. Stay away from those because they're going to pollute you. And we see that when they went into the land of Canaan, what happened? They were told to run the people out of the land of Canaan, did they? No. And so with them living side by side, what happened? They went to pagan worship, and God had to get their attention a few times and bring them back. So, like I say, some things in science kind of irritates me. And if people would just read and understand the Bible, things would be so clear. You can't make a mistake if you read and understand the Bible. More questions, comments? Brother Clunch, you feel like saying anything or asking a question? Or okay. I think, let's see, I'm 1 minute past time, so we can call it quits right here. But thank y'all so much for your attention and comments. Should have done you some many softball questions. Sometimes it's just good just to reinforce what we have.
You want to say something? Maybe the only time. Good evening. As shown, the song of encouragement will be Hark the Gentle Voice. It will be on the screen. I'll try to do Be Still and Know. This is my still holding to doing new songs, which scare me. So let's give this a shot. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. I am the Lord that strengthens thee. I am the Lord that strengthens thee. I am the Lord that strengthens thee.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's had a good week and a good Bible class this evening. This evening, I would like for us to look at Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3. And I want to answer this question. What can we learn from the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Daniel 3, we'll start in verse 8 through the end of the chapter. This is going to be a lengthy reading, but it's very important that we understand the full story. Daniel 8 through the end of the chapter. Therefore, at a certain time, the Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree, and everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought forth these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you're ready at the time, you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, and you will fall down and worship the image which I have made. Good. But if you do not worship, you will be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God will deliver you from my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that's the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace and will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor who was in his army to blind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning furnace. Then these men were bound to the coats, the trosters, the turbans, and other garments were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace was exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound to the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, Did we not bound these 3 men in the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. Look, he answered, I see 4 loose men walking in the midst of the fire, and they were not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. We'll stop there. This story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is one of my favorite stories in the Old Testament. These 3 men defied King Nebuchadnezzar and were thrown into the fiery furnace. They refused to obey the king's new law. But they paid no attention to this law and the king's commands. They did not serve the king's gods, and they refused to worship the golden statue the king had set up. They paid a great price for their action, which was death. Again, let's go back and look at specifically verses 15 through 18 in Daniel chapter 3. Verses 15 through 18. Now, if you're ready at the time you hear the sound, of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the pulsette, and symphony with all kinds of music, you will fall down and worship the image which I have made. Good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God will deliver you from my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that's the case, our God, whom we serve, will deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. We as Christians need to be amazed by their strong faith in God. Their response when they faced the king confirmed 2 things to me: that their foundation in God was strong, and that they knew no matter what, God would take care of them and deliver them. We as Christians know that God is able to help us. However, we know that he does not always do that, but he will always be with us. Romans chapter 5 tells us that God allows us to be tempted and face difficulties in life for reasons we just do not know, just as Jesus was tempted and tried. We might not understand why this is happening, but whatever is going on, we always need to trust in God because God has a plan for us. An example we can look to is Job, who endured incredible pain, suffering, and had everything taken away from him. Let's look at Job chapter 13 and verse 15. Job 15 and verse 13. Or Job 13 verse 15. Job chapter 13 and verse 15. And it reads, "Though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Even so, I will defend my own ways before him." We also know that God doesn't guarantee that we will never suffer, but he does promise that he will always be with us. We should learn that in times that we face of trial and persecution, our attitude should reflect these three men. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. Daniel chapter 3 and verse 18. Jesus said, "And do not fear those who will kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." Matthew 10 and verse 28. Even if Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had to suffer horrible, painful death in the burning furnace, they refused to abandon God and worship that golden image. We need to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when we are faced with temptations, trials, or difficulties in life. Nebuchadnezzar was amazed that the fire did not consume Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He was even more amazed when he saw three, but four people in there. "Look," he answered, "I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And in the form of the fourth is like the Son of God." Daniel chapter 3 and verse 25. The point here is when we walk by faith, 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 7, there may be those times of fiery persecution, but we can be assured that God is with us. Matthew 28 and verse 20. He will sustain us. Psalms 55 and verse 22, and also Psalms 147 and verse 6. He will ultimately bring us home to heaven, where we will spend eternity with him if we are baptized and faithful unto death. Revelation 2 and verse 10. The lesson of the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is that as Christians, we will never be able to bring the world to Christ by becoming like it. We will never be able to bring the world to Christ by becoming like it. As these three men did, so should we, in showing that God lives in us. And if we are put forth before the fiery furnace, we can have comfort in knowing that we are God's children and that we can have the hope of heaven when we die, if we are faithful unto death. I want to end with these words spoken in 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 18. That's where I would like to end tonight. 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 18. Second Corinthians 4, verses 16 through 18. And it reads, "Therefore we do not lose heart, even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us far more exceedingly an eternal weight of glory. While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal." Tonight, there may be some here who has not yet been baptized and is ready to stand up for God's word and defend it. But in order to do that, you have to follow these 5 simple steps. You got to hear Romans 10 and verse 17. Then you got to believe Mark 16:16. Repent, Luke 13:3. Then you got to confess Romans 10 and verse 9. And then you got to be baptized, Acts 2 and verse 38. But once you are baptized, you have to live faithfully unto death in order to receive that crown of life, Revelation 2 and verse 10. Tonight, there may be some Christians here who's already been baptized that hasn't been defending the faith and standing up, no matter what the consequences are, and living your life for Satan. Why not you turn back right now and live your life for God? There is nothing that God cannot forgive. Tonight, we do not guarantee another moment, so this might be your last chance. If you need prayers or anything at all, please come as we stand and sing.
Hark the gentle voice of Jesus falling tenderly upon your ear. Sweetest cry of love and pity call and turn and listen, stay and hear. Ye that labor and are heavy laden, lean upon your dear Lord's breast. Ye that labor and are heavy laden, come and I will give you rest. Then his loving tender voice obeying, bear his yoke, his burden take. Find the yoke his hand is on you laying, light and easy for his sake. Ye that labor and are heavy laden, lean upon your dear Lord's rest. Ye that labor and are heavy laden, come and I will give you rest.
Poor Jackson should have just crossed that out and written instruments. He'd have had a better time of it. A lot of tough words there, but you did a great job. And we need to always be reminded of the toughness that we see in the Bible through tribulation. We talked in class tonight about Joseph downstairs and about his patience in prison as we continue through our Bible families, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The story with Joseph, at least on Joseph's part, is all good because Joseph continued to have faith in God no matter what happened to him. You mentioned Romans 5 and kind of skipped past it, but I think it's important for us to read beginning in verse 3. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. And hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given unto us. That passage and Jackson's invitation are something that we need very much today as we go through tribulation. Things are different, maybe not exactly hard for all of us, but definitely different and not what we're used to. But it's a time that we can manifest that hope and show God's love to the world around us. Let's continue to remember those who are sick of our number, those who are not feeling well. I know Brother Terry is not feeling very well today at all, so let's continue to remember him as he fights kidney stones. Remember Jim and Barbara, as I believe Jim is home now after his defibrillator, but is recuperating from that. We have a young man, Dylan Keller, from Prattville, that's in our fire department, just recently joined with us there, only 18 years old, and has had several different health issues now that have come to light, but had to have open heart surgery in Birmingham and still in UAB recovering. That surgery did go well, but he has many months of recuperation ahead of him. And I don't know that being a firefighter is going to be a good choice for him as a career at this point. So he has a lot of rethinking to do with his life. But if you will, remember him and his family in your prayers as well. Continue to remember all those that we continue to pray for, those that we have that may be shut in during this time, let's reach out and check on those people who are not able to be with us. Brother Turner is staying home for now. I know he had popped his head out one time, but his family, I think, had discussed with him and thought it would be more wise for him to stay in because of his age and the other issues that he has during this time. And so his heart is with us, and he plans to be back with us as soon as he can in person. Brother Alex has our closing prayer. If we don't have anything else, if you will be standing, we'll have that, and make sure that you're back here Sunday for worship.
Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this lovely day. We thank you for the time you've given us to come and worship you. We ask you to be with those who are sick and allow them to get better, be with those who are traveling and allow them to get to their destination safe and sound. Lord, please be with all those who are mentioned here tonight, allow them to get through their various things. In Jesus' name, amen.